or we will do in the later?
Let's go with the assessment questions and we can go into the class.
Okay, thank you. So I'm starting about the question number one. Question number one was you host a service with two Azure virtual machines. You discovered that occasional outages cause you service to fail. What two action can you do to minimize the impact of outages? Select two. So there is a add a load balancer, put a virtual machines in an availability set, put the virtual machine in a scale set, add a network gateway, add a third instance of the virtual machines. So last three, if you check, put the virtual machine in a scale set, it will not cover your outage. Add a network gateway, it is nothing. At a third instance of virtual machines, if outage is happening, then it will also affect on third virtual machines. So it will be better to choose for first two, A and B. First of all, add a load balancer. The load balancer will load the traffic and put the virtual machine in availability set. From availability set, one if it is the problem, then others will back up. Then you are researching Microsoft Azure for your company. The company is considering deploying Windows-based VMs in Azure. However, before moving forward, the management team has asked you to research the cost associated with the Azure VMs. You need to document the configuration options that will likely to save the company money on their Azure VMs. Which option should you document? Each answer presents part of the solution. Select four. This is very important questions about Azure Administrator. Normally and usually it is asking from the management to a administrator. The question is very truthful. So the answer will be A, use HDD instead of SSD because HDD is less price than SSD. Then we can go for A and then go for A base D, use different Azure regions because as I told that with different Azure regions with different cost of VMs and use the least powerful VMs that meet your requirements. So if you have a low budget, then you will choose the least powerful VM. And last one will be bring your own Windows license of each VM. If you have own license, then you will set for your VM. No go for license in Azure. So question number three, you are planning to deploy several Linux VMs in Azure. The security team is issues a policy that Linux VMs must use an authentication system that other passwords. You need to deploy an authentication method for the Linux VMs to meet the requirement. Which authentication method should you use? Select one. It is very easy. It will be obviously SSH key pair because Linux support only SSH key. And preview question 4 is the your company has Windows Server VMs and Ubuntu Linux VMs in Microsoft Azure. The company has a new project to standardize the configuration of server across the Azure environment. The company opts to use desired state configuration DSC across all VMs. You need to ensure DSC can be used across all the VMs. So what two things should you do to select two? Deploy the DSC extension of Windows Server VMs. It will be B and D. Deploy DSC extension of Linux. You have to put two DSC extension in two VMs. Different VMs, OS VMs actually. They're differentiated by the OS. One is Windows, another one is Linux. So last question is another IT administrator creates an Azure virtual machine scale set with 5 VMs. Later you notice that the VMs are all running at maximum capacity with CPU being fully consumed. However, additional VMs are not deploying in a scale set. You need to ensure the additional VMs are deployed when the CPU is 75% consumed. What should you do to select one? Enable auto scale option because auto scale option automatically can deploy another VMs when there is a limit is crossed, consume limit is crossed. So these are the questions for the last assessment. So now we will start from today's session. Today's session also will cover one module. That one is serverless computing. Last one was virtual computing, and Today will be serverless computing, and tomorrow will be the last class. Tomorrow will be data backup and recovery. So, as usual, first of all, we will start from the, I will share my screen of presentations. This is module 10, Azure Serverless Computing. First of all, we will go for some theory, some presentation. Then we will go with the portal. So today we will cover only this one module, because this is much more important module, virtual machines. Like these are the computing module. Computing module is very important in Azure. So today also I will cover only module 10. So Azure Serverless Computing. What is serverless computing? Serverless computing is thing that you don't need to hire any server or any VMs. You need to to take any VM or set up any VM or set up any server to run your apps or web service. This is very interesting service in Azure. This is called serverless. You no need to server. You just take a service called app service. From the app service you can put or you can deploy your app or web. So what will be the lesson? Lesson 1 will be Azure App Service Plan. What is the service plans of app to put the app or deploy the app services. Then we will learn about container and Azure Kubernetes at the last. So first, Azure App Service Plan. What is that app service plan? That app service plan is define a set of compute resources for a web app to run. It's a set of compute resources by like it can be VM, it can be net run or deploy your app. Determine performance, price, and features. So how will this plan is determined by the 3 categories. One is performance. Every plan has different performance and price also, and according to their features. One or more apps can be configured to run in the same app service plan. Suppose you take one service plan. In one service plan, you can choose one or more apps. No problem. Region where compute resources will be created. There will be a region. You have to choose a region. Number of virtual machines. How many virtual machines you need actually. Size of virtual machines. The size, how the powerful will the virtual machines, and pricing tier will be in the next slide. What will be the pricing tier for app service plans? It will be here. So there are some plans, like first of all free, then shared, development and test, basic, dedicated, this one also development and test, standard for production or workloads, premium, enhanced scale and performance, isolated, high performance security and isolation. What are those? Why are these? Shared compute is free and shared. Free and shared means in app service, you took app service as a free. You have to consider that there may be another customers or another clients also sharing the same resource. So these are the called shared compute. These are the both two selected features are free and shared. And there is a basic dedicated. Dedicated compute means these resources is apps. There is no shared. So these are the basic, standard and premium. Same plan dedicated in Azure VM. And last one is isolated. Isolated is totally its network will be isolated. VNet will be isolated. All are totally isolated from others, and it is very much secure. That's why it is called isolated. So what their supporting features are: web, mobile, or API apps. Any free, you will get 10 of you can put or deploy 10 mobile app or API app, shared dev test, if you take shared dev test, then also you can get 100. And if you go for basic, then it will be all others will be unlimited of web, mobile, and API apps you can put. Share, no auto scale, basic, no auto scale, standard, only standard, premium, isolated, that is auto scale supported. Deployment slot means which slot that you can deploy. Only there is no slot for deployment. Suppose any one slot, you can put a deployment. There is a 5 slot in standard, premium is 20 slot, and be, as you don't know, actually these are the all shared for free and share. And basic you can take up to 3, standard you have to take up to 10, premium and isolated accordingly 3 and 100. So this is app service plan, scaling, scale up and scale out. There are two things. Scale up means it will change the app service plan, like more hardware and CPU and memory disk. Suppose if your feature is more need more more capacity, then it will increase the CPU power or memory or disk space. And scale is scale up, and scale out is means it will straightly increase the VM or resource instance. Suppose if you need more scale out, then it means it will take another VM or 2 VM or 3 VM like this. Auto scale means there can be two way. One is manual. Manual is you will fix the numbers, and another is auto scale. Auto scale means automatically the system will responsible to scaling. Automatically it will add one or two instance what there's a scale out of plane. There is option of app service plane scale out, adjust available resources based on the current demand, improves availability and fault tolerance. It will be improved the availability of because it is auto scaling. Scale based on a matrix.
Hi, Yasin. I'm sorry to interrupt the
CPU
session,
percentage,
but
memory
your voice
percentage,
is
STP. These
breaking
are the
and
metrics.
it
These are
is
the
not
yes.
understandable. So, if I think there is some issue for your signal, maybe.
But I have a full signal there. Now it's okay. Hello.
Yes, I think it now it's okay. It like sometimes is breaking down and it comes back. So it's hard to catch on to the complete sentence.
Oh. So from here, I actually miss. I can start from here. API. So this is app service plan scaling. Plan scaling means how it will plan. There is a two way of plan scaling. One is scale up, and another one is scale out. So scale up is means suppose if you have need to your apps need more resources like CPU or memory or disk space, then it will increase automatically. And there is another way, that one is scale out. Scale out means it is straightly increase the number of VMs. Suppose if needs more CPU or more disks, then it will actually take one VM. And manually, it can be manually. You can fix that one, how many VMs you will choose for scale out, or auto scale. Auto scale is based on preferred rules and schedules. There may be you can put schedule and rules that way will be add for VMs. So this is the scale app service plan scaler, how it will work. It will work like it is adjustable for resource based and current demand, and improves availability and fault tolerance. And also the scale based on metric. Metric means the CPU percentage, how it is, how about the CPU percentage, what about the memory percentage and HTTP request for traffic. All three are the metrics to make scale out. Scale according to a schedule like weekdays, weekend times, all this. Suppose in the weekend or weekdays, weekend you can scale out less, and weekdays you can scale out more. Like this way, you can also schedule. Can implement multiple rules, combines metrics and schedule. Both you can combines metrics and also scales. Scheduling means with the days or time. Don't forget to scale in, but don't forget to scale it. There should be a scale in. All time you can go only for scale out. It must be some decrease also. So it is Azure App Service. There are a lot of app service options here: Net, .NET, Node.js, PHP, Java, Python on Linux, HTML, Windows container. A lot of things is option is there to make the app. So actually how we will create and what is the continuous deployment, all we will learn from the portal. So backups, application insights. So I'm going in the portal to check. Surag, now it is okay?
Yes, it is going good.
Okay. Maybe problem with my that speaker or mouth speaker.
Okay.
So I'm signing my portal. Sorry, not this one. So this is my MCT portals, and I want to create one app service. So here we will type app. So here will come app service. You will just click. So there is no app service. We will create one app service. How we will create app service? It is very simple. Like just make it create and fill up some options. Then it will create. First of all, choose the subscriptions. Then go for a resource group. Then name. Any name you can give. So I can give test 1024. So it is already in use in any Azure clients or customers. So 677, just you can give. So it is not used, so we can use this one. There are three options for, sorry. There are three options of publish. One is code you can publish. Then there is a Docker and container. As a Docker and container we can publish, or static web. Static web app, then you have to create here. If you for Docker container, there is some which Docker type operating system, Linux or Windows, which one you will choose for container. You can choose here, and here is the code. Code is for which code, like .NET code, or there are a lot of code there like Java, Node, PHP, Python, Ruby. So just I'm for taking .NET. And if you go for Docker, then you'll be there Windows or Linux. Linux will take checking. Yes, EastUS, there is a Linux. Suppose what is there showing? Suppose if I put like Brazil South, sometime you can check that that region cannot support the operating system or this Docker container. Just checking. So I will quote Brazil South is okay. Now I'm giving here EastUS. AKS, and as it is .NET, so I choose Windows, Linux also, but I choose Windows because it will be good for Windows for .NET. So pricing plans, these are the pricing plans. So there are a lot of pricing plans there. So you can create new here, Windows price. Sorry, this is a Windows plan, EastUS. You can any one, standard is S1, this one, or create new one. Suppose if you create new one, then you can just write the name, it will come. Then deployment. Deployment is disabled. Suppose if you have any GitHub account, then the GitHub account code in the GitHub account. From here, you can also deploy your GitHub account or Azure Web Apps or Azure DevOps or any other repository. But we don't have, so I make it disabled. So next there is a networking. So enable public access. If you to make it a private, then you can give it private. So I make it public access. Then there is a monitoring, how you'll monitor application insights. Insights is here. There is an enable of monitoring, so it will monitor. So tags, we know the why we will use tags. All are done. Then just review and create. Create. It's creating. So it's deploying. We have to wait for a minute. Components are creating. So it's already ready. So I go for resource, check the resource, what done here. So it is done. So these are the overview of a web app service. Let's check. It's come. It is in the resource group. It is running. Location is east-west. Subscription is this. Subscription ID is this one. URL is this one. Suppose if you copy and if you paste what is going, let's check. There is a default page is here for Azure Web App Service. Health check not configured. If you want, you can configure. So there is some option is here. So we will get from here. These are the tags and everything is here. Quick start. From quick start, you can start. Suppose if you go for quick start, ASP.NET, which one you choose, you can choose from here also. Deployment slots. What is the deployment slot? Deployment slot is this add the slot when you will deploy your apps. There is traffic is 100% and one deployment slot. You can add more also. And there is another where it's the backups. Every service you have a backup, so you can from backup here. So there is a no backup. There is no backup data display. There is no backup now. There is a configuration custom backup. Suppose if you it's like not normally it will backup every 1 hour. There is no backup in 1 hour. So from here you can storage account. There is a storage account. We already created Yasin and container. We have container one image there. So all backup files will be go that container as we created in a class of last class that about Azure Storage. Custom domain. Suppose if you have a domain, then you can add here the domain IP address and your domain name. Then classic is the options. So classic way to add domains like some, these are the some parameters you have to put here. So networking is here. How you will access the traffic, restriction of Excel, private endpoints will be there or not. All are things here. So if you need, you can configure these things also. Then there is scale up as we read about scale up. This one is this is the scale up. Suppose your apps is going very much, you need to more. Then this will be scale up. Suppose you can select scale B, scale C, anyone you can select and it will be scale up by this feature view. Suppose when there is a, you know, suppose now you are in the free F1. Suppose after you choose that if there is more traffic came, then you will go for premium V2. Just click here and select. It will work like that. When there is a more traffic or more usage, then it will be scale up this service. Then scale out is there. App service plan. It is another app service plan for scale out. This is the scale out, and this is the instance. For suppose if there is a more, than instant count will be one will be added, or custom is auto scale. If it is auto scale, then it is automatically scale mode. Scale mode is specifically instance count one or two, anything you can write. Scale based on matrix, and also you can matrix way you can give. Suppose minimum limit is one, maximum is one, and default is one. You can put here as you need actually. Then you can save it. So this is the app service plan and app service. You can put here any app here. So how you will put this? You can put here by Azure DevOps. Suppose DevOps, you have options from the DevOps. You can repository your like the code will be automatically deployed there, and you can check your Azure here. The service will come here. Your page or application will become in here. If you have a domain, then you can check the domain here. Suppose test 667, there will be no Azure website. There will be tech667 dot suppose total.net. If you have a website name is total, like this way you can uh, do app web app. So this is the option of web app. Now again, I'm going to container. What is the container? Container is a thing that it's not like a virtual machines, but it's like virtually environment. They will create one environment in the container, like then you can take that container in anywhere like image, and you will set up that container in any laptop or any VM or any desktop workstation. Then then your web will work. Suppose if you deploy or if you create any app, then there are a lot of software and a lot of things are going on their configuration. So you make a container and put there all the make an environment of that app. And when you want to deploy this app to another workstation, you just use the push the pull the image of that container and push that image to that workstation, and all the environment will set up. Then your app will run. So you don't need to set up like Java environment or Python environment or like any other environment. So what is the difference between container and virtual machines? We will read here how we will make Azure container and Docker. Docker is one of the container. So features, isolation. There is some features about the difference between containers and virtual machines. Container is typically provide lightweight isolation from the host and other containers, but doesn't provide a strong and security boundary as a virtual machine. It will a lightweight separation by the and containers doesn't have any strong security boundary. Like this virtual machine provides complete isolation from the host operating system and other VM. Suppose one VM to other VM, there is a totally isolated. OS is totally isolated, so it's not matching with each other, and it is very much isolated and secure. Operating system, if the operating system you can differentiate like runs the user mode portion of an operating system and can be tailored to contain just the need service or your app use few system resources. This is the thing I told you, that only what you need for the to run the app, that one will take the container. From operating system also, that configuration they will take. They don't take the full OS files and OS configuration. But in virtual machine, as you know, if you want to run the virtual machine, you have to run full OS and everything, which are uses by the CPU, memory, and every storage. Deploy individual containers by using command line. Deploy multiple container by using an orchestra such as Azure Kubernetes. So if you want to deploy, then it will be container, and container you have to deploy in the Docker, or a multiple container by using an orchestrated by Azure Kubernetes. In what Azure Kubernetes work? Azure Kubernetes can deploy multiple container, like not one container. So in Docker, you can put a container, but in Kubernetes, you can put multiple container. Deploy means deploy, in VM. If you want to deploy, then you go to Windows Administration System or Hyper-V Manager, or deploy multiple VM with using the PowerShell or system cloud like this. Persistent storage. What will be the storage? Use Azure disk and local storage for a single node, or Azure files or storage shared by the multiple nodes on servers. It can be like system, it took the storage from the Azure or in the shared files. And use virtual, there is a, when you make a virtual VM, it will automatically, a VSD means virtual hard disk. From there also, virtual machine will take the single VM is taking the storage from there, as we learned from the last class, and also they can share from the multiple disk or server also. Fault tolerance. If it is fault, how it will work? If a cluster node fails, any containers running on it are rapidly recreated by the orchestration to another cluster node. Suppose, as I told, that orchestration orchestrated like Azure Kubernetes, there are two or three more containers you can deploy. So if one failed, then automatically it will recreate another one. And what about VM? VM can fail over another server in a cluster with the VM's operating system restarting the new server. So if it is in cluster way, then it is can create a new operating system, and then it will restart the server again. So this is the representation of graphical of containers. Suppose this is the okay. These are the like a VM which hosts a container. In the VM, there is a container. In the container, we have a web server. Suppose if we want this, there is a web there. So if we want to deploy this web in another virtual machines, we just create a container image and we will put in any Docker install in another container host. Then it will automatically run. So it's a PaaS service, like platform as a service. As we know, platform, what platform means, it will make the environment of your any apps or any software or any your applications. Fast startup times, startup times is very fast. Public IP connectivity and DNS name, you have to connect with this one with public IP or DNS. Isolation features, there is isolation features means different container, different isolation. Custom size, size can be customized. Persistent storage, you can store it by persistently. And Linux and Windows container, both can be possible, Linux container and Windows container. Go co-schedule group, there is a schedule also, that how you will make or deploy scheduling or creating scheduling. This scheduling group is there. And virtual network deployment is there. Suppose if you want to create a virtual network, then also you can deploy this one. So this is also possible. So container group, you can make a group also container. Suppose these are the Azure files, there is a group of container, one container group and two container group which have a Azure files. What is there? There is the maybe the code of the Azure files content at the web. How you will collect this one, access this one with any DNS name or IP address. Like a collection of containers to get scheduled on the same host. Same host can schedule hosts for. One is port 80, another is 1443. When you will put like dot, like it will be like, suppose this DNS name is total.net, suppose total.net colon 80, then it will go here, total.net colon 1433, then it will go this container. The container group share a life cycle, resource, local network, and storage volume. A container group, both are sharing the local network and storage volumes, no problem. So Docker, what is a Docker? As we told, container is hosted in the Docker. So this is the Docker host, and this is the Docker Hub. Docker Hub, you have some images of operating system like Ubuntu, Windows, and Nginx. Nginx is the web server Linux, web server image. So whatever you need, you can take from here. Docker server we take from here, and image will be there. Which image you need, with the REST API we call that Docker, that which image actually they need. And Docker client also ask REST, they take the images from REST API. And the containers is here. This container is supported by the Ubuntu Linux or Windows or Nginx. What they are needed, they will take from here images. So now we will go for Azure Kubernetes. So before that, let's try to take some containers. To check some containers, what is the containers? So as usual, you can put here container, like here, container instances. So no container instances display here. You can create here. I just show you the container, but I will not create. I just show you the options here. How to create. This is very easy. These options are, you just make the name test 6679 STUS. There is none selected region doesn't support this East US. There is no available region supported. Quick start image or Azure container registry. If you have, there is no extra. So we just create a quick start image. That image will be there. Image name is this one. So you can put Linux. No, we need Windows image. So we take Windows image, and the size is here. The container size is here. You can change the size also from here. Suppose you can change the size here if you need. Then go for networking. So as I told, there is a public networking and none. So if you go public, then you have to create the DNS level. Suppose if the level is total, then you will go total.com like this. Or if there is any port, so you can add port here also. Select 1443. Suppose 1443, 1443. Any port is there. So next, like here, this one is advanced. Restart failure. On failure, it will container will all on failure it will restart policy, but not if you can never also. Never means always it will be never it will be restart. So these are the key management for accessing. For review create, validation passed. Let's create. It will charge me, no problem. Let's create. So deployment is going on. Done. Go to resources. So here is the containers. So these are the containers options. So you can put here to start. Let's start. What happened? We can check. Start the containers. It will show the public IP address and everything when it is started. It's starting. You have to wait. Starting pro container. Windows Server 16 base image will no longer supported in Azure Container. Suppose if you want to make a container with Windows 2016, if you make OS type Windows, it will not work. Please migrate workloads the latest version Windows Server before December 31st. You have if you have any apps that in Windows 31st, it will start. You have to upgrade from 2022. So let's check here. It's in the starting container. It will take time to create a container. Here you can check the CPU and memory, how it will be used. It will be a graph. So how container you're using your CPU and memory and everything. So I think it's started. So after they started, you can check here. There is a public IP address here. So these are the containers. So if you click here, so refresh, this is your containers. So started killing containers like so, no problem. These are the containers already done here. So it is again, you have to go for a start. There will be a container count is one, only one is here. So when it is started, then there will be a public IP address. With this public IP address, you can access your containers. Refresh what happened. This is telling fully started, but there is no started function is here. There should be a public IP address. Terminated. Why terminated? Refresh. Properties will be there. So these are the properties of the containers. From here, you can find the properties. If you have any domain name here, it will show here. So all our here is resource ID and everything is there. Normally it should start. So why it is not starting? But normally when I click here, so it will start and here will be a public IP address. So meanwhile, we can check others. This is the Kubernetes. As we know, the Kubernetes is to contain a lot of one or more containers. So this is the Kubernetes service, manage maintenance, containers and maintaining the maintenance. Perform simple cluster scaling. Scaling will be a simple way. Enable nodes to be fully managed by Microsoft. Nodes means a VM. Node means VM. Every node it is managed. Every like VM is managed by Microsoft Azure. You are responsible only for managing the agent nodes. Agent node means which node in the system. That one you can pay only for the agent nodes. Other nodes you don't need, which are maintaining the Microsoft. You just give the payment for the only that VM nodes. Pools. Here are some pool. What there are in the architecture or terminology of Kubernetes. This is pool. What is pool? Group of nodes and identical configuration. In the pool, there is a group of nodes there. Nodes means individual VM running containerized application. Every VM is running a container applications. Ports. Ports key, a single instance of an application. A port can be contain multiple containers. This is the production, and this production is contain multiple containers. So when they are need, they will take these containers from the node. Deployment, one or more identical ports managed by Kubernetes. Deployment in a YML, there's a YML, that scripting language. This YML script language will, by YML, you can deploy the multiple container in the pod, pod instance. So nodes, clusters and node. What is the clusters and node? Azure Managed Node provides core Kubernetes service on orchestration. Where the node means this is the node. Node means a VM. In the VM, there is maybe 2 or 3 containers. This is Kubernetes. In the Kubernetes, in a Kubernetes, when you they will create a VM, and that VM can contain, and which container in the runtime that will take the data from the Azure disk files anyway. And this is managed by the Azure. For why? This is managed by controlling and scheduling the which Kubernetes will use and which container will go now and which container will be in the back and which will be proxy. All will be controlled by this node, and this node you cannot pay for this node. You only use for customer manage this node. Means this these VMs. Each individual node is an Azure virtual machine, as I told you. Customer managed nodes, run application and supporting services. Your, your applications. Azure managed nodes provide core Kubernetes service and orchestration. These are the Kubernetes configurations. Kubernetes controlling these all the Azure managed. How will network will work? There are 3 part of network. The one is internal traffic, another was incoming direct traffic in Kubernetes, and another is incoming non-direct traffic. Internal traffic direct go to cluster IP, and which one need, they will go to that production container. Suppose in 80, then it will find the container of 80, then it will access that cluster IP. Then there is incoming direct traffic. Suppose it is 3.0, it will go to the AKS Kubernetes node, then it will go for node port, check the node port, and node port will find out the container from the production, then they will return. And there is incoming non-direct traffic. It will go for load balancer. You can put a load balancer in the Kubernetes. What load balancer do? Load balancer make your traffic control by some rules, as we did the class in the load balancer, and you can configure that load balancer same way in the Kubernetes also. And this is the cluster. As we storage, how it will work is storage. Suppose in the file in the apps you're running apps, those you need files or configuration files or data files. So how you will store that one, or how you will manage or maintain that one, it will showing here. Local storage on the node is fast and simple use. Suppose in the node, it means a virtual machines. You can put some data here, so it will from the data will collect from that node VM's hard disk storage. It will be very fast. Local storage might not be available after the production is deleted. Suppose in the production container, if the container is deleted, that time data also will be deleted associated with that application. Multiple ports may share data volume. Multiple production can also share the data from there. Storage cloud potentially be attached by another port. There is a Azure files also. If you put Azure files in a standard storage, then what happens? There is a two-way premium storage, and as Azure files is standard, and one is managed, and one is normal Azure file. What happens when there is if you have a file in a node, if production is deleted, the file will be deleted. The container is deleted, file will be deleted. But if you put file in Azure storage, so suppose there you have a 2 or 3 production is there, production container, one production container is deleted, the file associated or data associated with that container will be deleted. But maybe in other containers need those data. That time there will be a chance of data loss, and there will be a chance of some problem will arise in your app if there is any configuration data is there. So it's better to go from here Azure files. So if any container you can remove, then no problem, they will share data from Azure files. There are two way, one is Azure files and a managed disk. In the disk also, you can take a disk from the Azure portal or Azure service, then you can put the data here, or you can put Azure files in the as Azure standard storage system. So security, how you will make the Kubernetes security? There is a managed service, the limit access authorized IP range. You can authorize the IP range, create private cluster, or RBSA role base, or Azure AD access means active directory access. Cluster upgrades, you can upgrade the cluster frequently, so it will cordon that and drain the domain. Cordon and drain means it will update, it will stop the Kubernetes, and drain means when it is update finished, it will run automatically. Node, automatic OS security patches. OS security patches will automatically in the node system. It will you can use the node means virtual machine site. You can check the OS of security patches. You can manage disk and port security policy also. This is from the VM. From the network, you can define image ingress controller and private internal IP address. Like as we in Azure networking class, as we know how to the secure your network. From there also firewall put some rules in Necotis NSG group. You can take use here also. Data Kubernetes secrets and credential, there is a some credential of keys, encryption keys you can use there. For Kubernetes there is some Kubernetes secret and credential and keys. From there you can store secure your data also. So this is the structure as you for use a AD integrated guaranteed solution. Suppose there is a engineering user, there is authentication. So what API server, there is a server of API. When the Azure AD, when anyone from engineering user wants to check the node or access the node, then this API server will connect with the Azure AD with the API. Then they will give you the data that it is she is or he is authorized for this node of container or Kubernetes or not. If it is yes, then they will give the access. If it is not, then they will not give the access. Scaling is always there. That suppose you need more, your production is going more and more, node is asking more, then there will be auto scaling by the auto scale by the scale out by the node and production also all together, because every node has every production container. So in the node also can be scale out, and accordingly production container also can be scale out. Application might grew, it is written here, application might be grew beyond the capacity of single port. Suppose in a single port it is not possible, then Equinix has a built-in auto scaler. Automatically it will be auto scale cluster scale based on the computer resources. It will be computer resource, it will create the more computer resources, or increase the resource of computers. And horizontal port is scale based on matrix. There's a matrix, as you know, the CPU usage, memory, and disk space. These are the metrics. These based on they will increase the port also. If you need to rapidly grow your AKS cluster, you can create a new ports in Azure container instance. Suppose if you need more, then you can create new production container and node to make supporting. You can create a Azure container instances there, suppose VM, and create more container there. If you need more port, not only just for scaling or just increasing the VM, the suppose memory size or the disk size, you just create a full VM, and in that VM you can put the containers of productions. So this is today's end of presentations about uh, the virtual serverless computing. So if you have any questions here, you can ask me here. I will try to give the answers. Tomorrow will be the last class. Tomorrow we will have a two uh, The two module I will cover. One is data backup and another is recovery. I will put all these two in one class because it is very similar to them. That's why. So today is the serverless computing is finished. So if you have any question here, you can ask me.
Thank you, Yasin, for the today's session, and thank you all for joining with us. And if you have any questions, please do drop it in the chat box. So Yasin will be responding to it.
One question is there questions on the OS images like Windows, Ubuntu, and engines. Can you configure those images? Sorry, based on going to be based on a default. Default image, most large companies have their own OS image with focus. Yes, you can import that image also after creating the containers. Thank you very much. Hmm. Or the register to MS Azure default directory with Outlook.com account for practicing. Does it ask for CC details or it can be avail free? There, suppose if you want to go for Microsoft 365, then there is a options of creating your own domain or configure your own domain. From there, your domain settings, you can make a domain setting there. From there, you can do the domains, create the domains of your own as a default directory will not work. That will be your domain. Default directory will be named as a domain. This will be the last session, sir. No, tomorrow will be the last session. The last session will be the two module data backup and recovery.
Looks like there is no other questions. If there is no other questions, we can wind up today's session.
Suppose if you want to register your domain in your in your Microsoft 365, then what happen? You will go in the Microsoft 365 admin panel, and there in the settings you can see the you can see the domain. There is a domain controller or domain settings or add domain. From there you can uh, there is some give the parameter of tx, mx, and triple a. From there you can put some parameters from there. As your domain was hosted in those company, you can collect those parameter from those companies like GoDaddy or A1 hosting or any hosting. Then you just configure it and it will come automatically as a default directory as your domain name.
I guess that's it. Okay. Thank you, Yasin, for the session, and thank you all for joining with us today. And I hope to see you tomorrow. And the recording will be available in the YouTube channel, and the certificate will be provided after the training concluded. And 1 to 2 days, you will be receiving it. And thank you,
Thank you very
and
much. Good,
good night.
good night, everyone. See you tomorrow.